Hey guys, Joe Onit going to come back in, going to continue on with the faction builds. We're going to be doing a video here for the Desert Kingdoms DLC for Rome 2. So we will be doing a attack and defense for Nabatea, Saba, Kush, and Misacely. And I'm going to be bringing in a member of the Hungry Wolves with me. I'm going to be bringing in Charlie Zulu, or Merlin if you are in the Hungry Wolves Discord. He's going to help me see what his... Well, we're going to get his take on what army compositions would be for all four of these factions as far as attack and defense. And we're going to see how this goes. So hopefully you guys do enjoy the video. And let's get him in here so we can start this up. All right, guys, coming in. Going to do the faction breakdown. So, Charlie, what's going on, bud?
Doing great. I'm glad that Joe called his favorite member of the Hungry Wolves here to talk about the desert.
Yeah. Well, I love you all the same. I love all of us the same. Well,
That's
not really me.
Not
So, all right. So, yeah, somebody had asked for a video for the Desert Kingdoms DLC factions, and I know a little bit about them. I'm kind of versed on Nabatea and Kush. I have a little bit of knowledge with Misacely, but I'm not 100% on Saba, and I do know that you are quite the fan of most of the desert factions.
Yes, sir.
So I figured I would get your input on this and see if we can build up some pretty solid armies for attack and defense. Sound good?
That sounds perfect.
All right, beautiful stuff. So we would be doing the standard large funds. So we got 11,700 for attack and 10. AI spent some money, some 10,530 for defense. So let's start with Nabatea. Sound good?
That sounds perfect for me.
All right, cool deal. So what would you choose as your general type for attack?
So I'll tell you this. I will always say go with cavalry for attack. So I will take that second general.
Nabatea Noble Cavalry. Any specific reason on why you would take that?
Yeah, especially when you're attacking, you need the speed to be able to move around from the front lines away from it fast enough, and to prevent against any cheeky moves from the defenders.
Okay.
To be honest, Recums are great. So if you want to bring them, that's great too. But I prefer that general because it is a good melee cab general, and you can exploit a gap if you need.
And you would, if you need to, if you pick the strategist general, you'd be able to get to your units faster in order to hit them with buffs and abilities and stuff.
Yeah, even with commander too, with that area of effect, if you can get in there a bit faster, that also works too.
Okay. All right. So what would we go as far as melee infantry?
Melee infantry. So first off, grab, I would say 2 or 3 the first boys. I think they're Desert Levy or Neb.
3 levies, okay.
Grab, I would say, go with 5 Axemen.
Okay.
I would grab right now the 4 Nabatean Heavies because those are necessary.
So we're going to go right down to the archers here. So 4 heavy Nabatean archers, okay.
Okay. Once you have those, now you know the funds you have to work with the rest of your army. You have 2 options I would really go with, either grabbing 1 or 2 Desert Heavy Lancers, or maxing out the Axemen, which we're going to do in this one.
Okay.
Because it's less of a gamble to max out the Axemen.
Okay, so we have our max 7 Axemen here, okay.
Yes, and we're going to grab some Armored Desert Hoplite.
We grab a couple of them, or...
I'll tell you. 1 more. There you go. And then the last 2 units are going to be a Fixed Ballista.
Mm-hmm.
As you do not have tortoises, go back up. A Noble.
1 noble swordsman.
Yes.
Now you would bring... I'm guessing you would be bringing the noble swordsman because of that lovable encourage that they get.
Yeah, take a look at the Axemen's morale and you'll understand why.
Let's take a look
They
at the
got
Axemen's
morale, and that's put it up to 55 to 60.
Yeah.
So that's higher than Thorax Swords and morale to about equal to Thorax Swords and morale.
Okay.
Now you have some funds to play with, so you can work on chevroning, or if you want, switching one of those, the Armored Desert Hoplite into Reckham Palace Guard. Those are your two choices you got there.
Okay. So if I were to dump, let's just say I keep the Desert Hoplite. Do you have a specific on where you would toss your funds into? Would you knock up
one chevron each into the Desert Levy, because right now their morale is so bad that they'll be routed by flaming ammunition from the wall early.
Okay. So one into each one of those, that leaves you 880.
880. Then I would go into your mainline infantry, your axe warriors.
Okay. And just dump one into each?
Yeah, dump one into each.
Okay, so let's grab all 7 of them. Bang, down to 460.
One more.
Down to 40.
Now more into the Desert Levy.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay, so now let's do the other way, just so we can get all of the ideas here. So we will drop the one Desert Hoplite and pick up the Rakim Palace Guard. That knocks us down to 610.
Yes, it does.
So what would you advise for those points? Same, I'm guessing, one into each one of the Desert Levies?
Yeah, or you can go even more elite and grab a second one. That is not something I know, or some other people like that strat. I like the Armored Desert Hoplites, but so I would normally only stick with one Reckham.
Okay.
But if that's the case, yeah, you would work with the same style.
So you would just drop one into each one of these and try and get your mainline infantry to at least one.
Yep.
And then the 100 that's left over, dump them back into the levies again to try and help with the morale.
Exactly.
All right, there you go. So this is either one of those, as far as you're concerned, either one of those are pretty viable options.
Yes. Now I will say this: you have to remember with Nabatea, your sword, your melee infantry is not the best. Look at the price of them. That's why you're able to bring so many of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't think they can go toe-to-toe with any unit you fight. So always work with an ally, especially with many of these desert factions. You always want to work with an ally to cover up the faults that they have.
Okay, so you would basically say that as far as an attack, because we're on the attacking side first, the attacking Nabatea is more of a reinforcement kind of army?
Exactly. They can break through the armor piercing, but they won't be as sustainable as a Thorax or as a Persian or as a Libyan.
Okay. One final question. Would you say that once you got in, if you wanted to make a foothold inside the settlement, would those Desert Hoplites be able to hold for a while?
They would.
Okay.
So they are probably the best unit in your roster outside of the Reckhams, in my opinion. They are the tanks of your army.
Okay.
They will that foothold, and they will actually kill a good amount.
Actually, one more question, and I'm just tossing this in as far as like my army composition goes with Nabatea. I tend to bring some Nabatean swordsmen, and I find that they are pretty good. Why would you? What is your draw to bringing all of the axe warriors instead of having any of the Nabatean swordsmen?
Sure, I can. 2 reasons: 1, you can afford it. 2, the extra armor piercing. Now, a lot of times on defense, you're going to typically go against more armored units, I tend to find.
Okay.
I know people who go barbarian defense, and I know people like me who go Lusitani. This might not be as viable. But most of the time, you're going to be fighting people like Seleucid, Rome, Carthage, and the extra armor piercing will do pretty well.
Yeah.
Now, let's say Nabatean swords aren't good. If you see them on the field or you want to bring them, they're a great unit to bring.
Okay. All right.
They do have a lot less morale, though.
Yeah, I'm seeing that their morale here is 35. The base morale for the axes is 50. So yeah, that is quite the considerable difference, and is not really terrible. I mean, their melee attack is only 3 points lower. Their weapon damage is actually way higher.
Yeah, but take a look at the difference in armor piercing.
Oh no, I saw. Yeah, the axe's armor piercing is 10. The swords, I think, is only 5.
Yeah,
so yeah, there's a massive difference there.
To be fair, if you're fighting for low armor, it might be better to bring those Nabatean swordsmen and chevron them up enough that their morale isn't as bad.
Okay. That sounds good. That sounds good. All right, so we have our Nabatea force. Let's move on over here to Saba.
All right. Now with Saba, the archers are never going to be a great thing. I'm going to say this right now. They're 125 archer, and they have, I believe it's 35 weapon damage.
Yep. And
So
their melee stats are complete garbage.
if you want, you can either bring 4 of them, 2 of them, or a mix of 2 and 2, which is 2 archers, 2 slingers.
Okay. So which one would you pick? Would you take the 2 archers, 2 slingers, or 4 archers?
Personally, I grab the 4 archers. The reason is, even if they're bad, they can at least be used.
Okay. Yeah, on attack, I've always found it to be better. I'm not saying that I'm alone in this, but it always seems that archers always do better on attack, unless you can find a settlement where there's a hill outside. Maybe you'll get lucky with some slingers shooting into the settlement. But archers on attack has always been better if between archers and slingers. I think that's a common place across the board for most Total War players.
Mm-hmm.
So all right, so we have our 4 Sabaean archers. What would you stick with the cavalry build like you did with Nabatea, or?
Mareed camel cataphracts are probably one of the best cavalry in the game, in my opinion. They scare horses, and they hit hard, and they have great armor.
Yeah. Yeah, they're 110 armor, and that charge bonus is pretty insane.
Yeah. I will say, if you expect them to be as great in speed as cavalry, they're not. They're slower. Remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Using them.
Yeah. It'll definitely take them just a little bit longer than it would for a melee cavalry to get where you need them to go. But once they get over there, they'll be able to do some damage. We just always need to remember that melee defense, not good. Can't stay in there for very long.
Nope.
Definitely do. Even with that high armor, their melee defense is really not impressive at all. But the rest of their stats, pretty top right there.
Yeah.
I mean, even for a cavalry unit, bonus versus large, 10. That's pretty amazing.
And don't forget they scare.
Yeah. Now, when it says it just scares horses, right? It doesn't do anything to elephants, because elephants have their own scare ability as well, right?
Yes, exactly. It's specifically for horses.
Okay.
Camels are scared of horses, and everything's scared of elephants.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, so we have our general and our 4 units of archers. So what would you pick as far as your melee infantry goes?
Now, I like to be a dick and go full mercenary, because that's just a joke of mine.
So you would max your 7 Massagat Marauders?
Yep, max 7 Massagat Marauders.
All right.
Then you can grab some Mareebs as well, mercenary Mareeb.
Mercenary Mareeb, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now from there, you'd grab some low tiers. Now you can go with Sabaean swords if you want, and you know what? That's fine. Because I will tell you why. If you bring the Sabaeans, don't be pushing up the siege towers or tortoises. Put it there, right there.
Yeah.
Or because I believe you can grab 4 of them with the amount of funds you have left.
Yes. I'd be able to grab 4, and then I have 360 left. So would you, if we were to choose that build, would you go with the 1 levy or 1 of the Desert Spearmen?
I would go with, to be honest, the Desert Levy.
Okay.
That gives you more funds to play with. And then just start chevroning up your Sabaean swords.
All right. Now, so we can only get 2 chevrons. So
yep.
difference between Saba and Nabatea. Why choose to have the giant ballista with Nabatea instead of Saba? Is it because of the armor difference?
It's the armor difference and the fun difference. If you look at the Nabatean axes, they're 490.
Mm-hmm.
Look at most of the Sabaean infantry is.
660, 780, 520, yeah.
Even the Sabaean swords are more expensive.
Yeah.
Always bring them. But this is also a support army. This is an army you're expecting someone else to push up the shit.
Okay.
You can always mess with the army to get that fixed ballista. I think you can do it by getting rid of the levy. and one of the boys.
Should be one of the
Yeah.
Sabians.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll give you more than enough. You'll have 20 left over, so there you go.
Yeah, we can do that if you wish.
So either way, yeah, you can just go as a complete supporting army, or you can become as a supporting army and also have a little bit of extra added punch and offense on the attack with that ballista.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so there we go. And I'm guessing, I'm just going to say this here, I'm guessing that your commander ability, or your general skill ability, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, would be strategist.
I always do. I know people sometimes love the commander, and I'm not saying that's wrong. It's not how I play it.
Yeah. Well, commander, I mean, commander would be more for defense than it would really be for offense, I would think.
Pretty well on offense. It's a nice AoE ability, especially when you're trying to break through a breach.
Okay.
I personally always love the ability, especially in an engagement, to be able to refresh your unit and give them that edge if it's two tired units fighting.
Okay, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. So, all right, we have our Sabian, and that's either way. That is either way. You can take the giant ballista, or you can just pick up your extra Sabian swordsman and a desert levy and be happy. Be happy and content either way.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So one of almost everybody's favorite factions, Kush.
And this is actually one I have the least amount of experience with. Kush is not someone I use too often, mainly because others tend to grab him, or it's just the armor piercing is pretty obvious. You know who you're going to fight.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, as always, I will grab that cavalry general.
Okay.
I know that people love that archer general, but what I always am worried about it, I'm too scared to push it up, and by the time I need to use my archers, it's too late.
Oh yeah, I can absolutely agree with you. My go-to is the Kushite Royal Guard as well. I mean, I used to use the archer, but I agree with you. It's that you don't want to lose your general, but you need to push him up. You know you need to use him, but you're kind of like, I don't want to bring him up. Like, I don't want to lose him that early.
And also, when you use all your ammo, the unit's worthless.
Yes.
It's a slow unit, and it can't really win many engagements.
Very true. Very, very true.
And I'm sure you've heard of me on my streams. It's the reason why I hate those damn carrying axemen so much.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only good thing about the carrying axemen is that precursor, as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
and the fact that they're cheap, so you can build up the rest of your army around them. But your general is not very good at all.
Yep.
He can die pretty easily, pretty easily. Even I've seen low tier infantry kill a carrying axeman general. It's a good fight, but 9 times, I'd say about 8 times out of 10, the carrying general loses.
Yeah. Alrighty.
So we have our Kushite Royal Guard Cavalry General.
Let's grab archers first. Now, on attack, I'll tell you this. I love Numidians. I know that is not a popular opinion,
Mm-hmm.
but I love those boys.
Okay. So you would, I'm guessing, bring up all 4?
Yep.
All right, there is your
That's
4.
why definitely better archers, and there are Kushite archers and Kushite Royal archers are great.
Well, now, okay, so the Kushite Royal Archers, it's a pretty big monetary difference between the Kushite Archers and the Royal Archers.
Yes, they are.
Is that 5 points of missile damage and the 5 health, 5 morale, and I'm just going as far as those abilities, just those 4 missiles, is that 5 points of missile damage, the 5 in health and 5 in base morale, really that much of a... Actually, wait a second. They get an extra shot. They get 2 extra shot types.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was just 1. I didn't realize they got the heavy and the whistling.
Yeah, Kushite archers don't get heavy, do they?
They don't get heavy or whistling. They only get poison and flaming.
And that is why you would bring them.
Okay. Well, now I never actually took the time to take a look and see the Well, I mean, there's actually a pretty sizable difference in armor as well. I just realized that the
Yep.
Kush archers are only 10. The Royal archers are 30. So,
Yes.
okay. All right, so that price difference now makes more sense than it did.
That is why you would bring them, even if they cost so much.
Okay. All right, so we have our Kushite general. We have our 4 units of Nubian bowmen. Let us delve into the brutality of the melee infantry here for Kush.
Yes, let us grab 5 Kushite slaves.
We're going to 5 of the Kushite slaves. I'm guessing these are your equipment movers.
Equipment movers and front line. A lot of people see slave infantry and they don't shoot at them. They can be pretty deadly if ignored.
True.
Especially with their...
That is definitely true. The Kushite slave, I mean, I think we've all seen our fair share of people spamming slave infantry and doing pretty decently with them, even against mid-tier infantry. They usually do pretty well. If you can drop 2 slave infantry onto a mid-tier infantry, you have a pretty good chance of winning.
Yeah. What is it, that gold chevron slave army?
Yeah, it's either gold or silver chevron slave army is just crazy. I've seen that a couple of times in tournaments, and it does pretty well. I have to say, it does pretty well.
It does.
All right, so we have our 5 Kushite slave infantry. What would be your next grab up?
Now it depends on what you're fighting, but you could always spam those. You can spam those armored showtails.
Spam out armored showtails. 3, 4, 5, 6. So you could get 6 of those, and that would leave you 450 left.
At 450, you can put where you want. You can put in a swordsman or 2 more Kushite slaves, and that puts you at 7 Kushite slaves.
Yes, it does.
Now I've seen this army work. It's not the army I like, so let's drop that down to 5 again and get rid of them. I'll take 2 of those armored showtails.
2 armored showtail warriors and 5 of the Kushite slave infantry.
Grab those that fixed ballista.
Grab up a fixed ballista, all right.
And then grab, I believe it's, 5 showtails, yes.
5 showtail warriors, that leaves you 460 left and 2 spots.
All right, drop it down. No, we'll keep that there. And we'll grab 2 more slaves.
2 more slave infantry, and there you go.
It's a nice 20-stack army. Now, I know people sometimes like to go elite, and that's why they do the armored showtail thing.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, you're getting armies with my style. My style is always numbers.
Yes. Well, it's always nice to get a 20-stack or at least a 20-stack, especially on attack.
Especially because you know the enemies won't be able to without compromising their...
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this army is still a good army. That's still... I mean...
I'd be scared. I'd be scared to depending on who was playing it, I would definitely be like, oh, yeah. Once I saw those armored showtails come creeping out of the woods or whatever, that would that would definitely make me get a little worried, especially late game battle.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, you're pretty confident saying that this army would do rather well with the mixture of the Kushite slaves, the showtails, and the armored showtails.
Now remember, your showtail warriors won't win every engagement. Your armored showtails pretty much will.
Yeah. But the showtails have... What is their... they have the better melee defense. The regular showtail warriors have a higher melee defense than the armored showtail warriors.
The armored showtails have the armor and I believe the attack on them.
Yes, they have a 2-point attack power. Melee attack and a 20-point in the armor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is there a massive difference between a 20 for the armor piercing on the armoreds and a 12? So even a huge difference in armor piercing between the armored showtail warriors and the regular showtail warriors as well.
So if you ever see things like Evocati or Armored Legionaries and you're wondering why your showtails aren't winning, it's because they are high enough quality to be able to negate that 12 armor piercing. But if you bring those armored showtails with the 20, then they can't stop you.
There's not a lot of stuff that would be able to negate that 20 army piercing across the game, really. Unless you're going into like a serious noble hoplite or something like that.
Well, even then, it's... Your noble hoplite are going to lose. They'll be able to hold though, and that is their job.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
All right, so let us move on over to, I would say, one of your favorite factions. Pretty sure, I'm pretty confident I'm correct in that. One of your favorite factions, Miss Aicely?
Yes, it is definitely one of my top 3. I mean, anyone who sees me play probably knows my top 3, which is Lusitani, the Odrysians, and now Desert Road.
Yes. All right, so would we continue on the trend with the cavalry general?
Yes, and the second one.
The second one in, so the armored Numidian rider general, which they are just the spears. The Numidian cavalry is the javelins, right?
Yes, that second one, that Numidian noble, is actually a very excellent skirmisher cav. You might see it as skirmisher cav and be like, oh, that's nothing to be worried about immediately, but honestly, it beats most units.
Oh, it's definitely... Oh, yeah. It's definitely very solid. I mean, the armor... I wish the armor could be a little higher, but I've seen Numidian Noble Cavalry trash stuff in melee before.
Yeah, they have great stats. So if you ever see them on the battlefield, don't underestimate them because you see the little missile cav.
Yeah, no. Definitely don't want to do that. Okay, so we have our armored Numidian rider general, which even by himself, I mean, it's, again, the armor is what it is, but pretty solid stats across the board again for them. Pretty high charge bonus.
You'll see outside of the Legion, like the kind of like the Legion units, these are the units that when they were occupied by Rome, they started modeling their style after.
Mm-hmm.
Legionnaire cavalry, their Desert Legionnaires and Desert Cohort, they don't have that much armor when it comes to fighting. That mainly because the Desert faction and the way they play is a lot more mobile.
Yes, that's for sure. That is definitely for sure.
So the reason I love it is because you could go with those non-Legionnaire units and have a very mobile force, or you could those Legionnaire forces and have a very strong staying power force.
Yes, very true. Very, very true. So, all right. Now, I'm going to take a guess and say that you would take your 4 Numidian skirmishers.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Now, they are probably one of the few times I would bring Jack.
Oh, well, they're most definitely worth it. I mean, I've even used them, and I'm, even not being anywhere near as good with Miss Aicely as you are, I've seen them do a hell of a lot of damage just with the javelins, and then even getting into melee. I mean, they're good cleanup units for sure. They're definitely. I mean, I recall. I think it was Libyan infantry, and they were currently involved with in a battle with some of my the Legionnaires. I think it was the Legionnaires, and I charged one of the Numidian skirmishers into the back, and my Legionnaires were losing. And the second I got those skirmishers into the back of whatever, I don't remember, what I think it was Libyan infantry. The second they got in there, numbers just dropped, and the Libyan infantry was pretty much gone. It felt like seconds later they were wavering.
Yep.
So, very, very good choice for range. The only downside, obviously, is their range is only 80, but they can, maybe not civilized walls, but barbarian settlements, they can definitely throw their javelins over those walls.
Now, I will say this. If you're using the javelins, you want to prioritize armored units. Because unlike most archers, most slingers, javelins do great against armor.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty solid armor piercing, too. 12.
Yeah. I mean, that's a Shotel armor piercing right there.
Exactly, yeah.
When you get that at range, you can rip through a unit without them knowing what hit them.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also another nice to have that quick reload.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely very nice. Just
I've had,
get a quick machine gun fire off, essentially.
yeah, let me put it this way. I had a unit being shot by, I believe it was 3 units of Credence, Numidian skirmisher.
Mm-hmm.
I activated the quick reload and ran out of ammo before they could kill my unit.
Well, there you go. They got their use then.
Yeah. So outside of those guys, I grab I do the Desert Vigiles because they're always funny. Those are my that spear. They are my armory. Right there. Those guys right there.
How many of those?
So I grab 4.
All right.
They push up shit.
Okay.
Now I grab 6 Legionnaires.
All right.
2 Cohort.
All right.
Ballista.
Mm-hmm.
And with 1,000 funds left, go down to the cavalries. 2 Numidian riders, or you can go with the 2 with the light melee, the desert cavalry.
2 of the desert cavalry.
Either one works.
Okay. Preference?
I always love shock cav, so I normally go with the Numidian riders.
Okay. Now,
preference in shock cav or melee cav.
okay, so say somebody was just testing this. I don't even want to say that testing this. Would you ever consider doing? I know your love for the shock cavalry, but I also know that the desert cavalry is actually pretty solid. I mean, their armor again not very good, but you explained that already. But that health is really good. The morale's okay. But would you ever consider to bring one of the riders and one of the desert cavalry?
Yeah, you could always do that.
Okay, so let's say you would just do the 2 shock. We'll build an army you would use. Any specific place you would delve up that ending funds, or would you just put it somewhere where it worked?
Where it worked. I would try Cohort and then Legionnaires.
All right, so let's get into the cohort.
And that's perfect right there.
There you go. 1 point into the cohort. Now let's see.
Right there.
Let's see if you can get more. No, you can't. I think it's
either way. You can get the full 50 melee attack on either option.
Oh, look at that! Yeah, very true. All right, good stuff. So, all right, we'll drop it into the desert cohort, and there you go. So that would be another solid army for attack, as far as you're concerned, with these 4 factions.
Yes, exactly. One thing I will note: you see how I went with the 6-2?
Mm-hmm.
The way I normally play it is I move 3 Legionnaires with the cohort if I ever have to separate.
Again, for the encourage.
Exactly, for that encourage bonus. So it makes it a little mobile unit. You can move that encourage around if you need to. And you'd have solid Legionnaire infantry with encourage on it.
All right, good stuff. I just want to double check something real quick because I just want to make sure that I'm making the correct assumption. All right, so yes. Now, I have seen this conversation, never really been an argument, but I have seen this conversation before. Turn off formation attack on attack.
I always leave it off because it sometimes messes with attacks.
So you would leave it off on attack and defense?
I normally do, unless it's a hoplite unit. Then you could leave it on. But I normally leave it off for everything, mainly because I've seen it screw over my formation. And they've messed up the formation, let enemies in, or walked into another enemy and died. Because.
Okay. All right, so we have our. We're just going to gloss over again real quick so you can get an eye on these armies and just see that this is pretty standard, pretty okay for what you would consider to be good attacking army builds for these 4 factions.
Yep.
Okay. Now, we move on to the defending side, which pretty sizable, 1,200 gold difference.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you choose going for your general first for Nabatea defense?
I would stick with those Numidian riders. For the same reasons. I mean, look at the difference in funds.
The noble cavalry, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at the difference in funds between those noble cavalry and those Recums.
Oh, yeah, massive. 340, yeah.
They are the 2 options I would would say, are liable for defense every time you fight.
Okay. No noble swordsman, and that's I'm gonna guess no noble swordsman general just because of that armor.
Well, that armor, they lack Pila, which would be the only reason to use them, and the only benefit to bringing a noble sword is their encourageability. You already get that on a general, so there's no point in doubling up on something that doesn't matter.
There you go. There you go. Definitely a good reason to not bring a noble swordsman. I mean, I wouldn't bring a noble swordsman on attack as a general anyway. I normally stick with, even on offense or defense, I normally stick to about one, just so I can do basically what you were saying with the cohort with the legionnaires on Misacely. You have that encourage moving around with, be it the swordsmen or the axes, or even some of the desert hoplites. You can line up a hoplite and stick noble swords behind them, just to give them that extra standing power.
I mean, you know my strategy with those noble hoplite, and just stack them next to each other so they give each other encourage.
Yeah. Yes.
But for this, I'm going to give you my two main builds.
All right.
So the first is 7 Desert Axemen.
All right.
Get 4 Desert Hoplite. Not the armored ones, but the 420.
All right.
You get 2 more of those, I believe, with this one. Yeah, 2 more.
2 more? So
Yes.
6 total?
6 total.
Okay.
Now, down. Grab, it is the Pike Infantry, the 2nd Pike Infantry.
Just 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, 2 of them, sorry, my bad, 2.
All right.
And then 4 Heavy Numidians.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have 260 to play with. This is, if I want to use pikes, this is normally what I bring with Nabatea.
Okay. Anywhere specific, again, you would drop the funds, or would it just be wherever works?
I normally put them in the hoplite because they're when I retreat, and I want them to stay alive as long as possible. They are what lets my guys get out.
Okay. So you would, looks like, yeah, you'd be able to get 1 point into 4 out of the 6, which is still very good. Still very good.
Mm-hmm.
That morale goes up. Yeah. Melee defense goes up. Not really a big deal if about the attack, but the melee defense and that morale going up is definitely good. And this is actually one of the perfect units to go with the question that I asked just before. You would leave formation attack on these guys.
I would half the time. It depends on where I'm putting them. If
It's situational.
If I know that I might have to move them around to deal with multiple units, I turn it off. If I know I'm just going to be sitting in a choke point where they can only attack me in one direction, then I would leave it on.
Okay.
Now, my other build is let's get rid of those chevrons.
All right. Let's drop the chevrons down. Got it.
Get rid of one of your axes and both your pikes.
All right.
Put the extra hoplite in.
The extra 420 hoplite. Okay.
And 2 shock cav.
2 of the Desert Heavy Lancers?
Yes.
Okay.
I have 90 to play.
Yeah, that's actually pretty scary.
That's
actually pretty scary.
I like this one. This is what I normally use, mainly because I like shock cav over pikes. You need a way to get over that fun difference. And shock cav, I find, is the best way to do it if you can mic it correctly.
Okay.
Now, again, put the chevrons into those beautiful desert hoplite. You won't be able to do as many.
I think you can only get 1.
There you go.
Now, question.
Put it in an axe warrior.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. What we can get as far as oh no, yeah, you can still only get. Yeah, it's either one or the other. You're only going to be able to get 1.
You might as well put it in the axe, I guess, for the extra attack.
Okay. All right.
This is what I normally use for a Nabatea defense, and it usually works very well.
And this is on civilized or barbarian. It doesn't really matter. It's either way, it works pretty well. Okay.
I mean, I use it on Bertigala. would say fairly recently. I think you covered it, and it was literally just my cavalry running around.
I remember that. Yes, the cavalry got a lot of kills. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
All right, so Saba, defense, go.
All right. I have my Saba defense, which I keep trying to use. It is not the best Saba defense. It's actually a pretty mid-tier Saba defense. But I'm going to show you that one because I am proud of making that 0 funds. Then I'm going to show you another style of build.
Okay.
That Marib Camel Cataphracts.
Mm-hmm.
Go down. Get those archers.
Mm-hmm.
Get that Desert Heavy Lancer, second shock cap.
Just 1 or 2?
1.
Okay.
Go all the way down. That Chariot.
All right.
Now go back up. And it's 5 Mercenary Marib Guard.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's 5. And then throw those Sabian swords in.
The rest fill it in with civilian swordsmen?
Yes. No, that's off. Okay, back out some. 1 more. And get another Marib.
Ooh.
That's 200 left, and then you chevron.
Guessing you would chevron your Maribs first. See what we can get out of it. Okay, you'd only be able to, let's see, we can get 2. Yeah, looks like 2.
And then go with that Sabian. That makes it 50. The Sabian sword. I'd have to actually pull up what it is.
Nope, it is not.
Let me see it. But let's talk about the other build first then.
Okay.
That would involve keep the Marib general and just get rid of everything else right now.
All right, back to the Marib Camel Cataphract General.
Yep, go down to your shock cav.
Mm-hmm.
Go grab 2 of those 1,000 boys.
2 Sabian Camel Cataphracts, all right.
That is a pretty hefty strike force right there. That is 3 of camel cataphracts.
Yeah.
Now you can always, if you want to gamble, 2 more of them.
All right.
Gives you 5,000 funds to mess with. With this, I would recommend getting 2 units of slingers.
Okay.
Go up. Now you're going to fill out the rest with, I believe it is 4 axes.
Mm-hmm.
Then some Sabian swords. There you go.
Yeah, that is a massive difference.
Now
That's scary. That is very scary.
This
Used correctly, these 5 units of cavalry could do a ton of damage.
Saba defense. All right. Oh, okay. I see how I did it wrong. Okay. Yep, that makes sense. All right. Let's go back.
Back all this out?
Yeah, keep those 2 slingers.
Okay. All right, so we got the Camel General and 2 slingers.
Grab 2 of those Nabatean archers.
Okay.
Grab 5 of this mercenary Marib Guard.
Mm-hmm.
6 of the Sabian swords.
Mm-hmm.
1 Desert Heavy Lancer and 1 Desert Chariot.
1 Desert Heavy Lancer, 1 Chariot. Oh, wow. Perfect 0.
Now, I will say this. Your strike force outside of your camel cavalry is very lightly armored. You have to be very careful with them.
Yeah.
The Marib Guard are a 640 unit, heavy, and they have that shield wall ability.
Yeah, that shield wall is...
Tactics.
Yeah.
That can push your defense near, I think it's near 90.
I think so, yeah.
That is a very good holding unit.
Mm-hmm.
Your swordsmen, great offensive units, and you want to strike them. You don't want to necessarily engage them. You want to strike at them.
Okay, so explain what that means for anybody who might be a newer player. What do you mean by strike instead of engage?
So Engaging would be taking a fight and leaving them in the fight. You don't want to do that with Sabaean swords. You might be able to pull that off against low tier, but when you start to get into the mid tier, it becomes a problem. You normally want them to fight your mercenary Marine Guard and shield them. And then hit them in the flanks, hit them in the back, hit them and just pull away with your Sabaean swords.
Do Sabaean swords have javelins?
Yes, they do.
They do have javelins, okay. The Marib Guard do not, though.
No, they do not.
Okay.
Now, if you want a more standardized army, get rid of those Marib Guard.
All 4?
Yeah.
I mean, all 5? Okay.
Get rid of that Desert Chariot.
All right.
Another very good unit to bring are some Caravan Guards. They do have javelins, and they actually have an elongated range. So they actually have extra range. So bring, like, 3 of those.
All right.
And either fill in with the... I believe you have enough for 2 of those Marine Guard. The last spears. No, the last spear.
The actual, the Royal, okay.
Yeah. These guys are very powerful.
Oh, yes. That is for sure. These guys are very powerful. They have they have that shield screen, which I personally love the shield screen. I think that's a really fun addition to either on attack or defense. Obviously more geared towards defense, but I mean I've worked pretty well with shield screen on attack and defense. That cavalry counter tactics obviously is fantastic, and that expert charge defense is really, really, really helpful.
Especially when you have shield screen.
Mm-hmm.
With the bracing helps you defend against the charge. That extra defense, you actually win an engagement where people are cycle charging you with infantry. You'll see that a lot with more high-level players.
Mm-hmm.
They always cycle to constantly get that charge bonus. Things like these Maribs, with that charge defense, will win those fights. You'll actually come out better than them.
Mm-hmm. And then real quick before we wrap up here on Saba, I'm guessing just dump the 170 funds in. Would you dump them into your Caravan Guard or drop them into the Swordsman?
I would drop them into the Swordsman. Oh, another good thing about the Caravan Guard is the square formation.
Yes. Yes.
I believe go to the next one over. No, next ability over.
Oh, that is discipline.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
So actually pretty well if they lose their general.
Yeah. All right. Kush defense.
Kush defense. Now, I know Dan loves his swordsman. Now,
yes.
They're scary units. So you can actually negate those Kushites and go with the swordsman, but I've also seen Kushite slaves work very well.
Mm-hmm.
But first off, let's get that, Royal Guard General.
Mm-hmm.
So let's grab, for this, definitely grab 4 Numidians. They're only 360 each with 150 range.
Yep.
Now let's grab 5 Shotos.
All right.
Now if you want, you can grab 1 or 2 armored. I normally only grab 1. And I put the rest here into Kushite slaves, is what I personally do. You have 840 left, so now you can grab 2 swordsmen.
Perfect 0. Woo!
This is what I normally do when I'm on defense. I don't normally defend with Kush very often, though.
Yeah. You would only really defend with Kush if you saw somebody grab Rome and somebody didn't grab Kush before you grabbed it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a pretty straightforward defending army right there for Kush.
Yeah. Now there's another way to do it, which these are actually very good units, but get rid of that armored and get rid of the 2 swordsmen.
Okay.
I believe 1 Shotel. And grab 2 of those disciples.
Oh, I love them. I love these disciples. I've never taken 2. I've taken 1 before, and they...
Oh. Well, get rid of all your Shotos, actually. Let's see how many we can get. Because I know Norris likes to do this. There you go.
5. Oh, my God.
I know this is the thing Norris loves to do. Is to bring those disciples over them.
Yeah.
Yes. Outside of that,
Oh, the stats are disgusting. Aside of the armor, the stats are absolutely disgusting. What's that armor piercing? Armor piercing only 5.
yeah, but they have a 60 melee attack.
And they have frenzy and headhunt. Which just makes them...
Now this is
Would you classify disciples of people? Would you just classify them as a high, or like an elite, like a high tier, elite tier infantry?
I would. I mean, they're 1220. They are definitely a high tier unit.
But with the armor being as low as it is, would you classify it as an elite infantry unit?
I would actually. You have to be careful where you use them. If you can cycle charge with them, or you can get one good charge at the unit, you'll win that engagement even without that armor bonus.
Yeah. That's actually pretty. That's actually pretty scary. That's actually pretty scary. Now, if you didn't do that and you got rid of, say, you originally said the 2 disciples.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you do from here?
From here, I'll try to get some Shotos.
You can get 4 of them.
Yeah, back out 2 of your Kushite slaves. You can either grab 1 more or a few swordsmen.
Grab 2 swordsmen or 1 Shotel. Either way, any way you slice it, even if you were to take that back out, what was that, the 2 swordsmen?
Mm-hmm.
Even that is, well, actually, that still leaves me. What am I missing? What did I not do?
You got rid of 2 Shotos. You need 4. No. And one Kushite slave.
Oh, that was it. Kushite slave.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, even that is pretty crazy. That's a pretty crazy army. I mean, the swordsmen, I agree with you. I tend to not see a whole lot of swordsmen. I know Dan is a fan of them, but even them, I mean, they're not bad. They're really not that bad for 420. They're really not bad. I mean, what was that armor piercing? 4, which is whatever. But I mean, they can still do damage, and they have javelins.
Especially if you bring them early on. I see Dad do that a lot. He brings on against the low tier that they're using to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
And can rack up kills without taking very many losses.
Mm-hmm. And they can get everybody's favorite, get the in-game battle chevrons instead of spending funds on them.
Exactly, because they're only 420.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you're looking at, even if you're looking at, like, Naverni army, I believe they're, like, 350 for the Celtics.
They're 350 or 380. I think you are right. I think they're 350.
That's not much of a difference in price, so that means they can chevron up really well against low-tier units.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That is definitely true. So you've given a couple of options for Saba and Kush on defense so far. Actually, on all 3 of them that we've gone so far. Now, aside of Lusitani, as far as I'm concerned, I would put Misacili as your second favorite on defense. Me personally, I mean, yours is probably different, but I would say your Misacili build is probably your second favorite.
I would say so, yeah. For defense on Nabatea, another trick you can do, it really kills your army, but you can, instead of bringing those 2 cavalry, get rid of that extra Desert Hoplite and the Chevron.
Get rid of the chevron and the extra hoplite. Okay.
And grab that chariot. That good chariot.
The scythe chariot.
Now you have 810 to play with. Go back up. And you can grab that noble sword.
Ooh.
That's another one that you can do.
Yeah. That's actually pretty nice too.
Wow. That one.
That is pretty nice.
Often because the chariot is a gamble.
Well, chariots are always a gamble. I personally think chariots are always a gamble as well. All right, so let's get to Misacili now.
All right, real simple. We're going to start with my main build for it.
Okay.
I'll tell you why afterwards. So let's start with that Armored Numidian Rider.
Mm-hmm.
Then 6 Legionnaires.
Okay.
4 Numidian Light Infantry.
All right.
4 of those heavy Numidian skirmishers.
4 of the heavy Numidian skirmishers. Okay.
4 Numidian riders.
Oof.
And 1 Numidian spearman.
Perfect 0.
So this is a lot of cavalry, and I'm not a lot of good cavalry. The reason I bring that is very simple. If you take a look at the light infantry and the Numidian riders, they both have your vanguard deployment capability.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't actually normally, half the time I won't bring those Numidian light infantry outside of the settlement. They will function as, to be honest, my second tier of units. I normally go 3 legionnaires early on to beat anything that they send up that wall initially. Then I fill in with those Numidian light infantry.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can use that to pull the legionnaires back and use them more defensively.
Gotcha.
The reason for the Numidian spearmen is obviously that is 0 funds. So I would normally put that in the front as well, just as a, But Numidian riders are incredibly fast. They aren't the greatest. They'll lose in many engagements against either heavy armor or fellow cav.
Mm-hmm.
But when they can deploy right in front of an enemy who isn't prepared for you, and they can outrun most cavalry, it's tough to stop them.
Yeah.
Now, if you want a more sustainable build, which I don't know why you'd ever want to, get rid of those riders.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of those light infantry, and get rid of those Numidian spearmen. Yep.
Okay.
Now you're going to get 1 more legionnaire.
All right.
And you're going to start grabbing some cohort.
2.
Then you fill that out with whatever unit on the low tier you want. Slave infantry is actually not that bad. Yeah, 120 chevron those boys. They got really cheap chevrons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing that. Wow.
So if you take a look, they're not very sustainable, but they have 24 melee attack with that chevron and 35 weapon damage.
Mm-hmm.
If you want, you can instead get rid of those boys. Grab those light infantry. Yeah. Grab 2 light infantry. That could be your front line along with some legionnaires.
And you can even toss one of the chevrons onto a light infantry if you wanted.
Yeah. Personally, I see this army a lot more than I see my army. Mainly because 2 cohorts are a pretty tough thing to break.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's 7 desert legionnaires.
Yeah. That's pretty tough. That is definitely pretty tough.
But in my opinion, the reason you bring Vanguard units like the Numidian Riders isn't necessarily to kill everything. It's not. It's meant to mess with the enemy's head.
Mm-hmm.
And to delay a certain attack, or my favorite strategy with this is when Dan brings a full cavalry army with a faction like Parthia. I'm just running around the opposite side. They pull their cavalry to go deal with me because I'm staying in the open harassing them.
Yeah.
So they pull their cavalry away, then from the other side, Dan comes out with his cavalry force.
And gets to work.
And, I mean, you can ask Joe, but he's seen it multiple times where I've killed an artillery piece with those Numidian riders, or archers with those Numidian riders, too.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. That's actually one of the things I was going to say when you were saying the unsuspecting attacker. I mean, we've seen people leave their artillery mostly defended, if not completely undefended. Mm-hmm. And that's just begging to be killed, especially with one of those Numidian riders. Just begging to be killed.
Exactly.
Even if you could leave like Celtic bowmen out, or even my favorite, the ninja hunters, the Gallic hunters, they'll die pretty easily. Actually, their armor's not that impressive. It's only 10. So I mean, if you can get a unit of those Numidian riders, you could kill 1 or 2 of those, or at least kill one and rout another one of those Gallic hunter units.
Look at that charge bonus they have for this.
Oh yeah, 58 for a 440 with Vanguard deployment or guerrilla deployment. That's that is pretty rough.
My favorite story was someone was trying to be cheeky with the Gallic hunters. It was a random, and they put all their Gallic hunters to kill artillery.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I do with Numidian riders when I know they have guerrilla archers is I would put a unit, if it's a barbarian settlement, then they can't do the little scorpion tower thing.
Mm-hmm.
What I would do is I put a Numidian rider near the edge of where I can deploy in front of each of the artillery pieces.
Yeah.
And I've actually caught out archer units with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy.
I put that video in because he quit right after, but hey.
So, all right. Well, I would say that this has been a pretty, even for me, a pretty informational video, pretty educational video as far as using these 4 factions, attacking and defending, and especially with the different builds that you've had for all 4 of them. Pretty knowledgeable in the topic of the desert factions. Is there any other final thing that you'd like to add here?
Well, I would just say that the army you're seeing for Desert Rome is a lot more beginner-friendly, I would say, than mine. My army is definitely not beginner-friendly, because if you stop paying attention for a second, you've lost like half your army.
Yes.
So that first army I've shown you.
Wait, what did you say?
Be very careful with that first Desert Rome army I've shown you if you bring it.
Oh, yes.
Enemy staying power is basically 6 legionnaires.
Yeah, that is definitely true. That is definitely true. So, all right. Well, I'm going to say that this has been a pretty good video. I think that you've given a lot of good insight and a lot of good army builds here. And I want to take this second here to say thank you very much for taking some time out of your day to come out and help me make this video.
No problem.
And we're looking forward to seeing, if I get any replays in from anybody using any of these army compositions. I think it'd be kind of fun to see how, other people's takes on the compositions that you've given for as far as attack or defending.
Yeah.
I think it would definitely be pretty cool to watch.
I do have one final thing. These armies are my preference. Not everyone has the same preference. I think they're pretty good armies. If you find a different army when you're messing with them, never be afraid to mess with these armies that you see. Don't take these like, oh, these are the only ways to play these factions.
Mm-hmm.
Always experiment, because, I mean, that disciple build that I showed you with Kush, that was from experimentation. And they literally went one day and went, you know what, let's try, instead of bringing Showtails, disciples. And he got like 3,000 kills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So always experiment, because it's always fun to see different armies, especially unusual armies.
Yeah, that is very true. I can definitely agree with you on that.
Alrighty, I think that's all from me.
Yes, sir. Well, again, thank you very much for coming, and I look forward to seeing, so like I said, seeing people using these armies and maybe different variations of these kinds of armies and everything. And again, thank you very much for coming to help me out with making these army compositions. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, again, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment down below, share the content around, and if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day. Stay safe, and as always, until the next one.